I have a friend who's an artist, and he's a fascinating guy, but sometimes he holds up a flower and says something that drives me absolutely crazy. He'll look at this flower, maybe a rose or a simple daisy, and he'll say, "Look how beautiful this is." And I'll agree, it is beautiful. But then he leans in with this look of pity in his eyes and says, "You see, I as an artist can see how beautiful this is, but you, as a scientist, you take this all apart and it becomes a dull thing. You turn it into equations and atoms, and you ruin the beauty." And I think he's completely insane. I think he is fundamentally hallucinating about what the world actually is. He thinks that by understanding something, you kill it. He thinks that mystery is the only source of wonder. But I am here to tell you that he is not just wrong. He is missing the entire point of being alive in this universe. He is looking at the cover of a book and telling me that reading the story ruins the fun. So, let's have this argument. Let's take his flower, and let's see if science kills it, or if science is the only way to truly see it. Let's talk about this. Beauty, he claims to own. He thinks beauty is a surface property. He thinks it's about the curve of the petal or the shade of red. But that is a very shallow definition of beauty. That is a definition that stops at your retina. If you think the flower is just a pretty object sitting in a vase, you are treating reality like a stage set. You are treating the flower like a prop. But the flower is not a prop. It is a machine. It is a survivor. It is a conqueror. When he says, "I take it apart," he implies that the parts are ugly. He implies that the underlying reality is a mess of cold, hard, boring junk. But that is the exact opposite of the truth. The parts are where the magic is. The surface is just the advertisement. The surface is just the skin. If you peel back the skin of the universe, you don't find emptiness. You find a structure so intricate, so complex, and so mathematically elegant that it makes the visual appearance of the flower look like a child's drawing in comparison. He sees a shape. I see a system. And the system is always, always more beautiful than the shell. Do me a favor, look at something red near you. Maybe it's a book, or a light, or a part of this video. You see red, right? You feel the sensation of redness. It feels warm, maybe urgent. But what is actually happening? There is no red out there in the world. There are photons, little packets of electromagnetic energy bouncing off that object. They are vibrating at a specific frequency, roughly 400 terahertz. They fly through space, hit your eye, and crash into a chemical soup in your retina. This triggers a shape change in a molecule, which fires an electrical impulse down a wet wire into the back of your brain. Your brain then runs a massive simulation and says, "Okay, let's paint this sensation red." The color is a translation. It is a user interface. My artist friend loves the interface. He loves the icon on the desktop. I want to look at the code. I want to know how the computer works. When you understand that red is a specific vibration of the electromagnetic field, does that make it less red? Number, it adds a layer of wonder. You realize that your brain is interpreting the language of the star. You are not just seeing a flower, you are detecting the vibration of the universe. That is not subtraction. That is addition. We need to shift our perspective. We need to move from what is this object to what is this object doing. Science is not a collection of names. It's not about labeling the stamen and the pistil and feeling smart. That's botany class. That's boring. Physics is about operation. It's about the verb, not the noun. The artist thinks knowledge is like peeling an onion until there's nothing left. But knowledge is actually like zooming in on a fractal. Every time you zoom in, you find more structure, more pattern, more complexity. The deeper you go, the more there is to see. So, let's do it. Let's apply this destructive science to the flower. Let's rip it apart, layer by layer, and see if we find ugliness, or if we find a glory that the artist can't even imagine. Imagine we shrink down. We dive into the surface of the petal. The smooth red surface vanishes. We are now standing inside a cell. My friend thinks the inside of a flower is just jelly. Goo, but it's not goo. It is a factory more advanced than anything humans have ever built. It is a bustling metropolis. There are millions of tiny machines, enzymes, marching around. They aren't just floating randomly, they have tracks, they have highways. They are carrying cargo from one side of the cell to the other. They are building structures, repairing walls, tearing down waste. It is a hive of activity. If you could hear it, it would sound like a roaring city. It is furious. It is desperate. Every single cell in that flower is fighting for its life. Every second, it is burning fuel. It is pumping ions. It is not a passive, pretty thing. It is a dynamic, living engine. How can you look at that complexity, that coordinated, frantic dance of life, and say it's dull? It's the most exciting thing in the world. The artist sees a statue. I see a civilization. Now, let's go deeper. Let's look at the machinery itself. These protein machines, they work by the laws of physics, but it's a strange kind of physics. It's the physics of the very small. Down here, things are constantly being bombarded. The water molecules surrounding these proteins are moving at hundreds of meters, per second, crashing into everything. It's a violent storm, and yet the machinery of life uses this storm. It uses the random jiggling of the heat to push things around. It's like a car that runs on earthquakes. The flower is taking the chaos of the thermal world and harnessing it to create order. This is a trade-off to maintain that beautiful, still, perfect shape on the macro scale. The micro scale must be in a state of constant, high-energy riots. We trade the violence of the atoms for the serenity of the petal. You cannot have one without the other. Understanding this trade-off, understanding that peace is built on top of chaos, gives the flower a tragic, heroic beauty. It is holding itself together against the universal tendency to fall apart. It is a fortress against entropy. Let's push it to the limit. Zoom in on a single atom inside that DNA molecule. Now we are in the quantum realm, and here the intuition completely breaks down. The electron orbiting that nucleus, it's not a little ball, it's a cloud, it's a wave. It's a probability, it is dancing, it is literally spread out over space, vibrating. It doesn't have a definite position until it interacts with something. The solidness of the flower is an illusion generated by these dancing ghosts. The light that hits the flower and bounces to your eye is an interaction of these quantum fields. So, the flower is mostly empty space, filled with fields of force and dancing probabilities. It is a shimmer in the fabric of space-time. When I look at the flower, I see the quantum mechanics holding the molecules together. I see the electromagnetic force determining the chemistry. I see the fundamental laws of the universe, acting out a play on the stage of a petal. The artist sees a shape. I see the rules of existence being executed in real time. How is that less beautiful? It is the ultimate beauty. It is the beauty of the blueprint of reality itself. But wait, there is more. There is the question of why. Why is the flower red? The artist says, because red is beautiful. That is not an answer. That is a tautology. Science gives us the real answer, and it is a story of epic proportion. The flower is red because it has evolved to attract insects. This redness is a billboard. It is a signal. It means that millions of years ago, there was a negotiation between the plant kingdom and the insect kingdom. The plant said, I will give you sugar if you carry my pollen. The insect said, deal, but you have to make it easy for me to find you. So the flower painted itself red. It evolved pigments to reflect specific wavelengths that the bee or the butterfly can see. This means the flower contains information about the insect. If you showed me a flower from another planet, I could tell you what kind of eyes the aliens have there, just by analyzing the pigments. The flower is not a solitary object. It is half of a conversation. It is a physical manifestation of a relationship that has lasted for eons. The beauty of the flower is a functional beauty. It is the beauty of survival. It is the beauty of seduction. When I look at the flower, I see the bee. I see the history of life on Earth. I see the struggle to reproduce. The artist just sees a splash of color. Who is seeing more? And think about time. The artist sees the flower in the now, a frozen moment. But there is no such thing as a frozen moment. Everything is flowing. To me, the flower is a slow wave. It grew from a seed, taking carbon from the air, and turning it into solid matter using the light of a star. Think about that. The stuff of the flower is spun out of thin air and sunshine. It is a captured piece of the sun. And it is temporary. It will wilt. It will decay. Its atoms will scatter and become part of the soil, part of the air, part of you, part of me. The flower is just a temporary pattern in a river of matter. It is a whirlpool. The water flows through. The shape stays for a while, and then it dissolves. I see the flow. I see the temporal dimension. The artist sees a snapshot. I see the movie. I see the four-dimensional geometry of the flower's existence. It is not a static object. It is an event. It is a happening. And understanding that it is fleeting, understanding the mechanism of its decay, makes the moment of its bloom infinitely more precious. We live in a universe that is mostly dead, cold, and empty. And yet here, on this little rock, the atoms have come together to form things that can replicate, things that can sense, things that can bloom. This is the block universe model applied to life. If you could see the whole universe at once, past, present, future, the flower would be this tiny glowing thread of high complexity woven into the fabric. It connects the nuclear fusion of the sun to the biological rhythm of the earth. It connects the soil to the atmosphere. It is a node in the cosmic network. By analyzing it, by tracing the carbon atoms back to the stars that forged them, we realize that the flower is not separate from the universe. It is the universe doing something very specific in this coordinate of space-time. It is not an isolated object of beauty. It is a symptom of the universe's potential. People worry that this view is deterministic. They worry that if we explain the mechanism, we explain away the magic. They think if I can tell you the chemical formula for the scent becomes just a chemical. But this is a confusion of categories. Knowing the map doesn't ruin the territory. Knowing how the piano works doesn't ruin the music. In fact, it makes the music more profound because you realize that this incredible melody is coming from wood and wire and tension. The fact that blind physical laws, gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear force, can conspire to create a rose, that is the real miracle. A miracle isn't something that breaks the laws of nature. A miracle is what the laws of nature can achieve when they work together over billions of years. The flower is a triumph of matter. It is matter winning the war against boredom. My friend, the artist, he is limited. He is limited by his eyes. He is limited by his human intuition. He thinks the world is what he can touch and see. But our senses are poor. We see less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. We can't see atoms. We can't see cells. We can't feel the spin of the earth. We are trapped in a very narrow slice of reality. Science is the tool we use to break out of that trap. It is the tool we use to extend our senses. When I use a microscope or a spectroscope or mathematics, I am putting on glasses that let me see the true world. I am translating the invisible into the visible. The artist is stuck in the translation. I am reading the original text. And the original text is richer, stranger, and more terrifyingly beautiful than any painting. So, does science subtract beauty? Number it is impossible. You cannot subtract from reality by understanding it. You can only add. I can see the color just like he can. I can smell the scent just like he can. I can appreciate the form. But I can also see the cells, the molecules, the atoms, the history, the evolution, the physics, the stars. I have his beauty plus 1,000 other layers of beauty that he is blind to. I get the whole onion. He just gets the skin. So, Next time someone tells you that science ruins the magic, you tell them science is the magic. It's the magic of seeing what is really there.